Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
All right, welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. Ty Hildebrand here. Dan Rubenstein seated to my left.
Yeah.
College football is week 11 now in the books.
It is, isn't it?
We have some things to discuss today.
I got to fix my chair. I should have done that before. Yeah, it was a large weekend of football.
It did look like it was going to be a large weekend of football.
Right.
But it ended up being just that, as, of course, Alabama loses. Are you okay with
I'm
that?
okay. I probably should have adjusted my chair before we started. Yeah,
Okay,
continue.
We're in working order here.
Yeah, Alabama.
Alabama goes down. We're going to get to that momentarily, of course. We have a bunch of reverbs, a record number of reverbs, mind you, to get through today. I had a bunch that I had to go through this morning. So we're going to do just that in a little bit. Of course, solidverbal@gmail.com is our email address. Also, 206-338-1784 is the reverb line. Not necessarily taking the reverbs now, but just in case you want to check in next week and see if you can get yourself on the air.
Yes.
Again, that is the phone number. Also, look for us on Twitter and on Facebook. If you are able to catch us live, use the hashtag SolidVerbal. That'll, I guess, put you in front of us so that
It's
we
back
can.
there.
Right. That'll put you in front of us so that we can read some of your stuff maybe on the air as we go through this. But we should start out where we always start out each and every week with the reverbs. If we can play those now, I think it'll set a nice preface for what we're going to discuss here tonight. Forewarning, if you're listening, these are all Alabama A&M.
Yes.
Every reverb that you're about to hear is Alabama A&M.
So much emotion.
We have some others that we're going to play a little bit later on in the show when we go through these, but let's have a listen.
Hi, this is Lindsay Million from Louisville, and I'm the saddest because my boys are getting killed, and I hate it that you guys were so right.
Man, it's weird to call you guys when I'm sober.
Johnny Manziel for Heisman!
Yes, my name is Borat. I watched the Johnny's footballs. He beat the Nick Saban. Roll, tears, roll for little boys painted in red.
Johnny Manziel is a mouse.
Johnny Football, Heisman 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015.
Johnny Football for the Heisman, baby! Johnny Football for the Heisman!
Just calling to point out that Texas A&M, the 4-5 team from the Big 12, playing a high-powered offense every week and then losing. Yeah, welcome to the Big 12, SEC.
Are they still a Big 12 team, or are they allowed to be SEC now? I just need some clarification on all this.
Looks like Alabama is beatable and Oregon is unbeatable. So prediction for the national championship game, LSU versus Georgia.
I'm so happy Bama falls this weekend. SEC gets kicked out.
Sorry, we kind of screwed up the whole SEC national championship streak thing we had going on, but you can't blame the Aggies for winning.
Right about now, I'm thinking Harvey Updike is trying to figure out what he can poison in College Station.
I guess we all know why Nick Saban was complaining about the no-huddle offense.
Just want to point out how weird it is that the team that could not stop blowing leads all of last year, Texas A&M, just held on to a lead to beat the number one team in the country, Alabama.
Sorry, during Johnny Manziel's touchdown in the end of the fourth quarter, I jumped up out of my seat at work and yelled audibly, similar to the way that the wide receiver yelled when he made his catch.
I'm so glad that my Gators played Texas A&M at the beginning of the season because I just watched them knock off Bama. Oh, my God.
I just wanted you guys to know that I worked all day in a jail, miserable as hell, and then I found out Texas A&M beat Alabama, saving me from having to watch Alabama play a football game again this season.
By the end of that game, I was full out cheering for the Aggies.
Get your tickets for the Solid Verbal.
So excited that the Solid Verbal is a real possibility, and especially looking forward to Ty and Dan becoming huge Longhorn fans.
All right, there you have it. You heard the man. I am now a Texas Longhorns fan.
Yeah, how does it feel?
It feels dirty.
Yeah, it is.
After everything I've said to you, Texas, help me. You're my only hope.
Oh, that's a weird place to be. I know people. They can help you with that sort of situation.
So now Notre Dame,
yeah.
You would presume anyway, at least if the standings were to hold.
Right.
And the projected standings that people say Notre Dame's going to be 3 in the BCS and all that good stuff. You would have to assume that I need to root for Texas to beat, because Baylor's not going to do it. Baylor's not knocking off K-State.
Right.
You would have to assume now that I become
That's the assumption.
I become the world's biggest Texas Longhorns fan.
With Oregon having their schedule and K-State having their schedule left. Yeah, and Notre Dame only having USC as a team of note, and they have Wake Forest. That appears to be the case, that you're going to need a lot, because Oregon also has that conference championship game that Notre Dame does not.
Okay, well, let's get into the biggest game of the week. You heard all the reverbs. The reverbs were fast and furious, all about the A&M Alabama game.
Yes.
In Tuscaloosa, Alabama entered the game about a 14-point favorite.
Yep.
A&M goes on the road with Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, Johnny Heisman. I heard so
Johnny
many
Upset.
Heard so many nicknames.
Yeah.
Johnny Upset. I did not
I
hear
seen
that one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Huh. 29-24, A&M upends the unbeatable Alabama Crimson Tide in a game that you thought would be closer than the point spread.
Sure.
That I did not, and that I only heard a few brave souls actually call correctly in terms of who would win the game outright.
Right.
I joked about it last week on the show. Tim Brown was one of them. I heard him.
Our very own Michael Bean in our studio
I heard him.
put money on A&M outright.
Did he go money line?
He went money line
Wow.
outright, made himself some money to buy Tall Boys. I don't know what he's going to buy with it.
So, here's the deal. A&M jumps out to an early lead.
Mm-hmm.
They outgained Bama in the first quarter by a pretty sizable margin.
Outplaying them on both sides of the field, mind you.
Sure. Bama chips away, makes it 2014 at half.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, what are you thinking? Are you thinking, all right, this is something that can happen? I know personally I'm thinking this game's over.
Right.
Bama's found whatever A&M was doing.
I was resigned to the fact that Bama was going to win the game at halftime or a little thereafter,
Right.
Especially because the way A&M plays, and they're not able to traditionally run the ball. And by traditionally, I don't mean because they run a sort of spread system. It's that a lot of their rushing yards come on broken plays. Christian Michael has been very good, but that's against weaker fronts. And I don't think Alabama specifically built to come back and stop you what you're doing offensively. And Texas A&M isn't particularly built to sit on leads because if they are not able to get that offense going, then they can quickly give the ball back.
Sure.
So I was sort of positive that Bama was going to slowly grind this out, come back, and win this game by 3 or something.
Yeah. It was a great effort by A&M then.
Huge passes from Manziel, fitting them in tight spaces. Alabama secondary, they did everything they could. But he made the exact throws he needed to when he needed to.
He did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
And, of course, they come out in the second half then. And early on, I watched the first drive of the second half for A&M, and it appeared like it was more of the same.
Yes.
More of the same of what we had seen at the end of the first half.
Right.
But then Johnny Manziel.
And
Johnny Manziel. I mean, he made some big throws here. A&M in particular was very good on third down.
Yes.
And that was part of the reason that Alabama was sank in this one. Was sunk. Whatever terminology you want to use. Third downs was a big deal for A&M, and that's why they were able to win this.
Yeah, and Eddie Lacy had a good enough game for Alabama on the ground. It feels like they maybe should have fed him even more, but even when A.J. McCarron threw the air, especially later on in the game, to win the game, had success until he didn't. Until the sprint out play that A&M was able to.
I wonder, did he cry after that one? I didn't see if
I
he
would
cried.
assume so.
You can only assume that he cried. He's an emotional?
That's a word-ish.
Human being.
It's wordy. Right.
Yeah.
I would assume he was emotional, but A.J. McCarron has a national championship already. He'll be all right.
So, in light of this victory now for A&M, and I'm not much on the Heisman, Johnny Football for Heisman has a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
I think at this point, just because there is much debate over who the top 5 should be,
right?
Manziel clearly worked his way into that discussion.
He's in the top 5.
He needs to be in the top 5 after this one.
Manny Te'o, Colin Klein, Johnny Manziel, Marquise Lee, especially after another huge game yesterday, goes for about 160 and has a very long touchdown. Kenyon Barner, a down day. I don't know if Oregon has a specific strong Heisman candidate because they're so balanced. So I guess Barner still, after what he did to USC, is in 5th place just because it doesn't seem like there's anybody else really asserting themselves. I'm not a fan of the Heisman Trophy, America. So
I could not care less who wins, but
those appear to be the top 4 right now.
Johnny Manziel obviously has worked his way into that discussion.
Yeah.
The other point I would bring up is that SEC people, need to cool the jets on Alabama maybe beating a pro team. that probably
First
wouldn't
of all,
happen.
I think that was Steve Spurrier. I don't know. Were SEC people really big on that?
I'm sure they were on some message board somewhere, in some counterculture.
This is what I think of that.
Okay. Unbelievable. Unbelievable that people would even make that discussion.
Right.
But you need to cool the Jets on that. Bama's not beating an NFL team. And another thing we should cool the Jets on is Gary Danielson lobbying for a one-loss Alabama in the BCS title game mere seconds after
Gary
the game
Danielson.
ended.
It's
Right?
Gary Danielson. Who
We're
cares?
not talking about the teams in front of Alabama losing.
Right.
We're talking about just in general. Alabama ascending here. For those listening, I'm motioning with my hands.
I think Gary Danielson would make a case that a 7-5 SEC team in a horribly down year, be like, you gotta think about it, guys. You gotta think about it.
All right. So then we've got K-State going on the road against TCU and winning.
Yes.
The comment that I made to you, and I might as well be the one to make it because K-State fans already hate me.
Right.
So we'll keep you in the good with them. If TCU had a quarterback in this one, if TCU has a quarterback, they win this game.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Casey Paul Hall, but yeah, it seemed that TCU had opportunities, and this is where I still will credit Kansas State's secondary, playing as disciplined, taking the angles, playing as aware as we've seen from any secondary in the country this season, I would say. But yes, if TCU had a more complete offense, if they had a more aware quarterbacking situation, obviously they miss Casey Paul Hall, they miss Andy Dalton even more. But yeah, Trevon Boykin, nice at times, but not a quarterback who is ready to beat a top 5 team.
Who wants to hear a spoiler?
Because
I've got a spoiler.
Hit me.
Who wants to hear a spoiler? This guy right here.
America.
Could it be, and I'm just hypothesizing here because I'm already downplaying the Big 12, so let's just go the full way.
Yeah.
Could it be that the offenses in the Big 12 look as good as they do just because the defenses are bad and not necessarily because the offenses are that good?
I think that's fair.
Could that be? Could that be? Because looking at this one here, TCU holds Kansas State to 23 points.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State's been scoring a ton on pretty much everyone.
Yep.
How deeply do you read into that? I don't know. I don't know if it's something I should even mention on this program. But I am fine with that hypothesis that maybe the offenses aren't really that good. It's just the defenses are so god-awful. So that brings us to an interesting point later in the year when K-State squares off against Texas. What will happen then? Will they score 50 points and will they run?
God, you have so much energy about this. I like this.
I'm energized here,
I like
man.
it.
I'm ready. This is week 11.
Yeah.
We got all sorts of teams losing here.
Yeah.
I am wholly convinced that both Notre Dame and K-State will lose in the last week of the season.
Really?
Wholly convinced that's going to happen. And that Alabama, which is still somehow playing with pixie dust.
They get to play Auburn University.
We'll find a way to get back into that championship game. But that's just me.
I don't know if you're jinxing yourself on purpose with Notre Dame USC.
There's a whole lot of cosmic forces at play here.
I'm seeing that right now. Kansas State, yeah, it depends on Colin Klein's health. He certainly didn't look the same as he's looked thus far this season.
No.
Still, maybe injury effects on his throwing arm. He throws for about 145, only runs for like 50 yards. He had a very nice touchdown run, but certainly a down game. TCU's defense has shown flashes of being competent. So
yeah,
it's entirely within the realm of reality.
The Longhorns right there.
Don't ever do that on this show again.
Oregon 59, Cal 17.
Yeah.
We joked that there may have been some letdown potential here.
Yes.
Before this game. And, of course, Cal's a team that in recent memory has given Oregon fits.
Indeed.
When did they stop giving them fits last night? Because I went to bed. After half?
Cal sold out against the run. Were very sound against the run. They stopped Kenyon Barnard, DeAnthony Thomas in the first half. It was, I want to say, a touchdown game, a 2-touchdown game at the half. I should probably know these things. But I think it was 24-10.
24-10.
Yeah, 24-10 at the half. It became 24-17 immediately. Oregon playing a patchwork defensive line of freshmen. And I think they brought a walk-on on their traveling squad. And Cal was able to run all over them. After the first offensive Cal drive in the third quarter, Oregon just made some sort of adjustment and stopped Cal on the ground and through the air and decided that, yes, we have been a run-first / balanced team all year long with our plethora of speed options. But suddenly, let's just air it out and see what happens.
Right. Let's make Cal be Cal.
Right.
Let's make Cal be the Cal that they've been all year.
Right. I don't know, what's 59? What's 24 from 59? It feels like 35. Let's roll off 35 just for good measure. So that's what they do through the air. Not screens, not short stuff. It was downfield passing.
You are beaming. Look at you.
I love it.
You are beaming.
I'm a happy guy.
You are beaming. The red in the shirts, bringing out the red in the cheeks. You're beaming over this.
It's a bowling green color. I want to feel like the red and brown. Continue.
Marcus Mariota
Yeah.
throws for 377 and 6 touchdowns in this win. He has not really been tested as a passer, let's say. If this is a test that he passed it,
Yes.
with flying colors.
Passing attack.
Right, you see what I did there?
No, that was very clever.
He looked very efficient in this game.
Yes.
If, in fact, Oregon needs to get into a situation
I believe he's now the most efficient quarterback in the nation.
Right.
Yeah.
If Oregon needs to find some of its own pixie dust in a key situation, either against Stanford or against Oregon State or in a national championship game.
Pac-12 championship or yeah.
If Notre Dame or if Oregon, finds itself in that type of situation where they need to pass in order to win, you need to feel better about that as an Oregon fan.
Yes, I do.
You really do.
And one of the big concerns going into the year wasn't necessarily Mariota because the quarterbacks develop at Oregon no matter who it is. It's the receiving options. And Josh Huff had a huge game. I think he's gone for over 250 yards in the past couple of games. Seeing DeAnthony Thomas through the air, I think he had over 100 through the air last night, I want to say. So the fact that the rhythm is not just happening in the passing game, but with downfield receivers separating themselves. Cal's secondary is okay. But this is not the Cal team defensively where they were a couple of years ago. So yes, Oregon has proven. They proved earlier in the year that they could win with defense when they struggled offensively against teams like Arizona and Arizona State a little bit with the defensive success they had. And now they're able to prove that they can win through the air against an okay team. Cal isn't anything decent, but they're okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, the Solid Verb Bowl.
Solid Verb Bowl.
The Solid Verb Bowl.
Let's
the
not
hope
jinx
is
this.
still alive. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
And there is again, we talk about cosmic forces.
Mm-hmm.
There are situations, I'm not sure if you're aware of this.
Right.
There are situations this year where Notre Dame could have lost.
Let me look that up.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not aware of this, there were a few that, it got dicey.
Yeah.
But Manti Te'o seems to think that there's a reason that he went to Notre Dame, that someone told him, and I'm not getting into religions or anything like that. But there are forces at play here.
Manti Te'o, by the way, shouting out Marcus Mariota on the tweeters last night.
He did.
Little 808
fellow
love.
Hawaiian, right?
Fellow Hawaiian.
So Notre Dame goes on the road.
Yeah.
Trying to keep its Solid Verb Bowl chances alive against Boston College, and wins 21-6. An unspectacular
That's
win.
cute.
Before you say it,
That's a
before
cute
you
little
say
game.
cute and you're a little flat or whatever. Before you start talking about how cute the win was and how unspectacular it was, let me preface it by saying it was just as unspectacular as you might want to note here. It was not exciting.
Sure.
There was nothing about this game that I looked at and I said, wow, look at that. No, it didn't happen. Notre Dame did not allow BC to score a touchdown.
Correct.
I'm not saying that's an accomplishment. All I'm saying is the defense came through when it needed to. BC found itself in the red zone a couple times. Notre Dame didn't let them score.
Locked it up.
Okay. Unspectacular. Did enough to win. Let's move on next week to Wake. Let's move on the week after to USC. The USC one's obviously the big one. I am still terrified of Wake Forest just because I am the self-loathing Notre Dame fan on this program.
Right.
But let's just survive and advance. That's what they've been doing all season long. Notre Dame's now third in the polls. Have at it. Go ahead.
Notre Dame's an excellent team. Notre Dame is a really,
and
really
you are
good
rooting
team.
for Notre Dame. Are you?
I am rooting for Notre Dame.
I want to get you on record here.
I'm a loyal son.
Are you? You are. Are you rooting for Notre Dame here to play Oregon in the championship?
Yes.
You are, just so that we can have our little...
Wouldn't that be the apex of the show? This is our 5th season.
We would have to quit after that.
Yeah, no, that's the end of the show.
That's the end of the show if that happens. Sorry.
I am rooting as a human being. I am rooting for Notre Dame.
Okay.
As somebody who comes here every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays and Thursdays to talk about college football,
sure.
You try to pick apart what separates 2 of 3 excellent teams right now.
Okay.
Excellent, unscathed
This is
teams.
you being more clear about your hard line against Notre Dame.
Defensively, Notre Dame is great.
Yes.
Notre Dame is really...
Leads the nation in scoring defense.
Leads the nation in scoring defense. They've played one team in the top 50 in scoring offense.
Okay.
That happens, but they have USC. That'll be very interesting to see how they match up against the talent in Southern California on the road. They offensively, I think what you said was, they get by. It's unspectacular. You made the joke that they're trying not to show too much.
Right.
I think they've shown
what
they can and can't do offensively
They don't want
by
to
now.
show too much of the playbook for USC.
Right,
That's what this comes
obviously.
down
That's
to.
what it must be.
That's the whole game plan.
Boston College is the worst team in the worst BCS conference, and Notre Dame scored below what Boston College normally averages.
Sure.
That happens.
Let me ask another question. And I didn't look this up before.
I actually feel, before you get into your question, and this is very legitimate on a just a friendly human level. I kind of feel bad for Notre Dame fans for having to watch the teams that Notre Dame has played this year. You've had to watch Big Ten football.
There's a grain of truth to that. I'll
Big
give you
Ten
that.
football, it's just one service academy this season, correct? And then you're going to have Wake Forest, Pitt, and Boston College. Just the level of football. As you know, doesn't matter how good or bad Notre Dame has looked.
Right.
That has been your Saturday experience.
I will say there's a grain of salt.
And
in that.
Oklahoma.
And by the way, what I was going to ask you is, and I didn't look this up, and maybe you can help me. How many teams with a top 50 scoring offense has Alabama played when they were, top of the
we
world?
can look it up. I don't know.
I mean, I can't imagine it's more than.
I mean,
two.
they've played Texas A&M.
Okay, A&M might
Let's
be the one.
assume that
They might be the one.
I would assume LSU has scored in the top 50. I know they've had down games.
They've had down games.
But maybe I'm
curious.
I don't have that.
I'm not trying to
right.
to
No.
pose
You're,
the gotcha here.
You're
I'm just
absolutely right.
asking.
No, it's because here's what it is. It's because the big deal about Notre Dame is made about their defense.
Sure.
That's the strength that's the bedrock of Notre Dame football right now.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all it is.
They get by.
Yes.
They get by here, 10-0. The standings now are going to be Oregon 1.
Not in the BCS.
Maybe not in the BCS, but
K-State's
in the
going to be
AP,
one,
the
it
AP, in
appears.
the poll that we know
in
now.
the AP and the coaches poll, Oregon is one in both.
Oregon's 1, K-State's 2, Notre Dame's 3.
Right.
4 is where it gets tricky.
Colgate.
Yeah, Colgate. By the way, we have a Colgate sound, which we're going to play in a little bit.
nailed that pick.
We have the
Nailed
Colgate
it.
sound. Someone called you out on the Colgate.
What's up,
thing.
Hamilton, New York?
Someone called you out, but let's move through this. Alabama, I would imagine, is going to be 4th.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, I don't know when the poll. I might be Georgia. I don't know.
It doesn't really matter.
We
They'll have
can
one
probably
loss,
check.
and they're below that, I guess, upper echelon of undefeated teams. The Georgia game was interesting, just from the standpoint that
Alabama's 4 in the AP. Notre Dame is 4. Oh, that's old. Never mind.
Still old.
Continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So
was like,
Bama's
Notre
4th.
Dame.
Georgia remains 5th.
Yeah.
Wins 38-0 on the road against Auburn, a hapless Auburn team.
What
at
did
this
we say
point.
about this game?
I say about this game that Gene Chizik is.
No, I'm saying, what did we say when we were previewing this game?
We said it was going to be a runaway train.
Yes, we did.
I say about this game that Gene Chizik's about 2 weeks from being the old coach in the Applebee's commercial who they asked to hang up the pictures.
Yes.
That's what Gene Chizik is pretty much trending towards at this point.
Brutal. Yeah, no, but you're correct.
I would like to have a time-lapse video. Do they do time-lapse video like with sound? Could they do that? Like just cut frame all of our comments regarding Gene Chizik's job status over the last 11 weeks, where we first started out saying, oh, well, hey, you got to give him some
Give him a cush.
You know, he's got new coordinators, new players. You got to let him develop.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to like week 7, and it was like, wow, what else can we talk about?
Was the highlight of Gene Chizik's year keeping it close against LSU?
I mean, he needs to do something crazy like grow the sideburns or something.
Grow the burns. If he grows his hair out, it looks like mine. So do that. I love it. Let's have fun with that.
Oh, Gene Chizik. He's as good as gone.
Gene Chizik, CBS college sports analyst in 2013.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. So they lose 38-0.
Yeah.
Georgia, by the way, this was their last SEC game. So they're in the clubhouse. Yeah. They're going to be playing in the SEC championship game, presumably against Alabama. There was someone who called in, again, to this now infamous show that I listened to on the way up here.
Mm-hmm.
But someone was joking that, well, maybe Auburn could win the Iron Bowl. Auburn's not winning the Iron Bowl.
No.
Auburn is not winning the Iron Bowl. So let's just get that.
Cam Newton isn't walking through that door. Okay.
That was good.
Yeah, no, but Georgia did, in fairness to what they did yesterday, looked very good. Aaron Murray looked very sharp. On the ground, they were very good. What you want to see out of a team that has played down to opponents, which has been made very clear to me by Notre Dame fans, playing down to 2 teams, Tennessee and Kentucky, who probably will be without their current head coaches.
Sure.
So good to see from Georgia, if you are a dog fan, that they're able to separate themselves from a bad team this week.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Speaking of playing down, Florida.
Oh, my God.
Florida. Now, all right, Florida wins 27-20.
Yep.
Louisiana Lafayette has been okay this year. Hasn't been a bad team. This isn't like losing to, Lehigh, let's say.
Sure.
Louisiana Lafayette's been okay. Florida's offense is awful.
Mm-hmm.
It is awful.
Yeah.
All right, and I don't want to hear any of the. Someone wrote in from Tahoe. I'm assuming Lake Tahoe. Ed from Tahoe. I'm probably botching.
In all
this.
fairness, there's an altitude thing with Lake Tahoe. Who knows what's going on?
Someone wrote into me and was chiding me about my comments about Florida.
Right.
And whoa, look at Florida. Look, Florida beat A&M. And they did. And they beat LSU. Those are 2 really good wins, no doubt. But I'm sorry if I'm unimpressed with Florida when they win by 7 at home against Louisiana Lafayette.
They won by 7. It was 14-7 against Missouri, correct?
Yeah.
4 picks, and they separate themselves by a touchdown. There are legitimate concerns. Florida's offense has regressed.
They won.
This season.
They won on a block punt and walk-off touchdown.
Yes.
That's how they won this game.
A Louisiana Lafayette team that I don't believe is all that good. Not all that good.
No.
They scored 20, I believe. It was 20 all at a certain point. Florida is a team that can win in one specific way. Mike Gillislee was shut the flip down by Louisiana Lafayette. Maybe all you need to know about the Florida offense.
I don't know. Florida, 10 penalties. Driscoll hurt his ankle.
Sloppy.
Replaced by Trey Burton.
The slop factor of about 9, I would say.
Yeah, this
factor
was
9.
not a great win for Florida, but still, you got to like their chance. You got to like at least what Will Muschamp's done, because winning is still better than losing.
Yes, it is.
And if they head into
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, if they head into the final game of the year,
right,
10-1 against Florida State, on some level, that's still an accomplishment.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to be happy about that, especially with
great
where Florida
step forward.
Was. So. What else we got here? I got something else in this paper.
We have
LSU.
games. Yes.
How about this one? 37-17. Zach Mettenberger. Someone cast a spell on him.
He's looked very good.
273 yards passing and 2 touchdowns.
Downfield, making good reads. Mississippi State does not get the backdoor cover, or does not get the cover because Craig Lawson decided to return a pick for like 144 yards at the end of the game. Great win for LSU. I thought there was prime spot for a letdown opportunity after the heartbreaking end to the Alabama game. Thought they'd be a little bit bruised up from that game. Mississippi State, actually, it was a close game for a majority of the first half, or if not the entire first half. It was a game that appeared to be in the balance. Zach Mettenberger looked really good. LSU had some success running the ball, but to their credit, pulled away in the second half.
Yeah.
Looked every bit the top 7 team that
where was this LSU team all year? Did it just take them until last week to figure this out?
I think that the big thing is Mettenberger.
Were they sitting on Mettenberger trying to...
I don't know if they were bringing him along slowly or not giving him the playbook. It was a completely different playbook against Alabama.
It was ridiculous.
They opened it up, and they figured
2 different teams.
You would have thought that would have happened sooner.
If that LSU team had played all season, they wouldn't have lost to Florida. For sure, they would not have lost to Florida.
It is hard to imagine. And the game was in the swamp. It's a difficult place to play on the road.
I don't care if it was in an actual swamp. They wouldn't have lost that game to Florida. So
wow, okay.
South Carolina 38, Arkansas 20.
Yes.
South Carolina very quietly on the backside of the top 10 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Really has no way to move up or down.
Right.
Unless they lose, of course.
Yeah.
Arkansas still awful.
Indeed.
We should point out.
Improving, but Tyler Wilson throws a nice ball, but his offensive line has just been awful.
Bad.
And obviously Niall Davis hasn't been able to get anything going. That's South Carolina, a very nice game quietly. It's right. That's the word. It's quiet for South Carolina. Bruce Ellington has a very nice game at receiver for the Quacks. They're just hanging around. They're just a good SEC team.
What's interesting is if you look at the rankings, I guess the BCS rankings headed into this past week, you would get to number 8 and see South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You'd look and you'd see Florida State at 10. And then somewhere in the middle, you'd find Louisville at 9, which never quite felt right to me.
It happens.
Never quite felt right to me. Didn't feel right to you. I made it my lock. You didn't make it your lock, but you came damn close to making it your lock because we both really liked Syracuse to win this year, mainly because there was vulnerability for Louisville. Louisville, the first time ever, 9-0 in school history. I don't care if the media is not talking BCS National Championship. Kids on campus are talking, hey, you're undefeated.
Right.
These guys we would assume they go to class. Right? we would hope they go to class.
I don't really care.
We're not obviously alleging anything here.
Right, of course.
But you would assume that they're going to class. This game was exactly what we expected, quite honestly.
We were really smart for once.
Syracuse did not get off to the kind of back and forth start with Louisville maybe that we had expected. Instead, they just smashed them over the head with a hammer.
That happens.
Ryan Nassib in a winning effort.
A winning effort, America.
3 touchdowns. 2 things, though, that sank Louisville here. No answer for Jerome Smith and Prince Tyson Gully, which is very quietly a great name in college football.
Gully, yeah.
Cuse ran for almost 250 yards and also went 14 for 19 on third down.
It's hard to beat a team that's over 50% on third downs. It is just damn near impossible.
Syracuse wins 45-26. We called it.
Yes, we did. It really is. It's tough if you're Louisville to consider yourself a top 10 team and then struggle to beat average, below average Big East competition. As a Notre Dame fan, I figure who can better empathize with barely beating below average Big East competition?
You're funny, Dan.
So
you didn't used to be this funny.
I know, right?
You're funny.
There's a boost to me. Yes, but Louisville has struck people as perhaps not being as good as the number next to their name.
How much of this game did you watch? Did you watch the second half?
It was
game?
a flipping game. It was a game I was flipping.
Charlie Strong looks like he could play. Like you could put him out there and he could run for like 120 yards.
He's a cut gentleman.
He could play in this league, maybe in the next league too. But he looks pretty spry.
Rock solid.
But yeah, he looks good. So
here's what the Louisville title chances sounded like, by the way, to America.
Whatever that noise is, it is unpleasant. And yeah, Louisville goes down. I'm curious to see how far they fall in the polls. We could probably pull that up at some point. But Florida State 28, Virginia Tech 22. This was a Thursday night game. Headed into this game, we were quick to point out that Tech was 70th in the nation in scoring offense, and Florida State was 3rd in scoring defense. So there appeared to be a bit of a mismatch there.
Yeah.
Wax poetic. You were right on the money with this one.
This was my pick of picks. Florida State's not that good, not that dominant, not that killer instinct-y on the road.
Yeah.
We saw it earlier in the year, Miami, South Florida, and Virginia Tech, as thoroughly average, or if not below average, as they've been this year, still a hostile place to play. Doesn't bode well for Florida State. Florida State needed a last-minute drive to win the game. E.J. Manuel, here's my question for you, and it's a yes/no question.
Okay.
Has E.J. Manuel gotten noticeably better as a Florida State quarterback during his career? I would argue no.
Yeah.
He's not running. He looks like he's protecting himself and not running.
He's shown flashes. He's shown flashes, but nothing consistent.
Nothing consistent. He'll have open receivers that he underthrows. That turns. This is quoting Bud Elliott from Tomahawk Nation.
Yeah.
Turning what should be walk-in touchdowns to jump balls.
Yeah.
He's simply he's an average quarterback that has convinced the world that he's a great one, and he's fine. He's a fine quarterback.
They're Oklahoma Southeast.
Yeah, that's about right.
They're Oklahoma Southeast. 28-22. Tough one on the road. Virginia Tech could have won this game. I mean, Florida State needed a late pick and a game-winning drive in order to win this one.
Yes.
So that's not saying much. Virginia Tech's been awful this season.
Florida State, I will say this, dominant FCS team.
Very much so.
Murray State, Savannah State. You are on notice.
Speaking of Oklahoma, 42-34 over Baylor. All right. Do you really want to talk about this game? I mean,
Oklahoma-Baylor. Oklahoma was able to run the ball, which is nice. Bill Dozer had a bulldozer.
You and I could run the ball on Baylor.
We could on Bama. Lake Seastrunk, 91 yards and 3 touchdowns for Baylor. I've never heard of him.
Right.
But yeah, Baylor hung with Oklahoma. I think the spread was like 3 touchdowns. So credit Baylor with their ability to do that. Oklahoma, the defense was not able to do well. Oklahoma's defense was just like everybody else's defense, and they weren't able to stop Baylor for some of the time. But Nick Florence had a pretty down game for the Bears. Baylor's not all that good.
Clemson 45, Maryland 10. Speaking of not that good, Maryland, I think, is now back to being awful.
Well, Maryland, first of all, lost 7,000 players before the season started. And whoever was back and healthy for Maryland is now back and with no ACLs.
Standard issue Clemson
so
game, by the way.
So maybe that speaks ill of Clemson, that they weren't able to score 90 points.
Clemson and both teams in South Carolina right now in that position where it's like they could win 100-0 and people will be like, oh, that was nice.
Every year there's a secret team that does something ridiculously well but does everything else poorly that nobody pays attention to it. Maryland plays the run pretty well.
Yeah.
Like really well, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't do anything.
And it's been UConn for the past couple of years. West Virginia had a very good stat line defensively for a couple of years when their offense was doing so well.
Sure.
But yeah, Maryland's secretly very good
Dream
against
job.
the run. Yeah, dream job.
That's what it's all about. Okay.
Yeah.
Stanford 27, Oregon State 23.
Mm-hmm.
You liked Stanford to win this game. I liked Oregon State to cover.
Right.
Oregon State did cover by a half point.
Yes, they did. It was 4.5 points.
4.5 points, which is, you wonder how they do this.
The crazy guys in Vegas.
Speaking of pixie dust, did you watch this game? I wanted no part of this game. I'm going to go on record saying that I did not watch this game.
Right.
Because I didn't want to. That's why I didn't watch this game. I followed the box score. I'm not going to try and offer any insight here because I saw none of it. What happened?
It's exactly what you think would happen. Stanford went up. Oregon State came back, showed flashes of what has made them. There's another burp. Made them very good this season. Ultimately, Stanford gives Oregon State the ball back with a couple minutes left. Cody Vaz gets hurt. In comes Sean Mannion.
That's not good.
Gets a chance to be a man and run a 2-minute drill. 2 minute.
Get the job back.
Right.
The mojo back.
And he's still beat up, and Cody Vaz had all the momentum. Cody Vaz goes out with an injury. After a decent enough game, I think Kevin Hogan acquitted himself very nicely as Stanford's quarterback, but Sean Mannion goes 4 and out. Off the tips, Marcus Wheaton had a nice enough game. Stephen Taylor, perhaps under-discussed, had a ridiculous run. Kevin Hogan scrambles, hits him for no gain, and then Stephen Taylor takes the distance against a pretty good Oregon State defense. So it was a very nice win for Stanford against a good Oregon State team that was a top 10 team for a time, but not enough killer instinct from Stanford in this case.
Yeah.
They had the opportunities.
Stanford's got Oregon this week.
Stanford has Oregon this week.
Stanford's
in Eugene.
Stanford's going to get murdered by Oregon this week.
Maybe. I don't know.
Murdered by Oregon.
I'm worried about Stanford.
Murdered.
Oh, murdered.
Okay. So you watched Stanford, Oregon State. I
Yes.
watched none of it. I have no qualms.
Zach
about not
Ertz,
watching.
very good. Maybe the best tight end in the country, not named Tyler Eifert.
Okay, there you go. Nebraska 32, Penn State 23. You said you guys had the 3 wide set up here working. You had
We did.
3 dragons with the TVs?
Yes.
Okay. How much of this did you see?
Saw all of it.
All right. This is what you
I
call
mean, I didn't see every play because there were 3 TVs
This is what you
going,
call a
but-
front door cover. All
Okay.
right, as Nebraska kicks a meaningless field goal at the end of the game to
Right.
cover a 7.5 point spread. It's not meaningless.
Our friends
people are gonna
in the
write it
desert.
People are going to say, "Oh, it wasn't me." I know it wasn't meaningless.
Right.
I understand why they did it. Right. Mark Emmert was working the replay booth on this one.
Wow.
He had to be.
Okay.
I don't know how much more he's getting paid. I'm sure it's a great gig for him. One of the worst replay calls I have ever seen in my entire life.
Which one was this?
When Penn State scored a touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the game, they called it a fumble, I
Right.
think on the field.
Right.
And then upheld that call when they went to replay. What are they talking about? That was not even close.
I have no answer for you.
I saw Matty McGloin was giving SB Nation's gifts department a little bit of love.
Was he? Oh,
he
very
was
good for him.
tweeting out the gifts.
There he is.
It was not even close. What are they looking at?
It didn't seem like the right call. It did not seem like the right call. I really liked Penn State to win this game outright.
Yeah.
And they looked great in the first half. They go up 20 to 6 at halftime.
20-6 at halftime, yeah.
Nebraska, to their credit, something perhaps we have not discussed as we like making fun of teams like Texas A&M in 2011. Nebraska's done a really good job of making adjustments, crawling back into games. We saw it against Wisconsin. We see it against Michigan State. We see it against they're making the necessary moves in the second half. They do it in this game. Taylor Martinez has a nice game on the ground. Nebraska, I don't know.
They have alligator blood. Right?
They have alligator blood.
Cannot kill them.
They're going to be in the Rose Bowl. It appears, maybe.
Yeah.
They appear to be on the best track to the Rose Bowl at this point, which would be a cool story. Second year in the conference, go to Pasadena.
Penn State got screwed here.
Penn State did get
That's not to say they would have won the game.
Right.
All right. The Nebraska fans, well,
Right.
I get it. They got screwed here.
Indeed.
I did hear, I love these callers. Again, on the mysterious show I listened to on the way up here.
Sure.
Someone called in from Central Pennsylvania, which of course was your instant tell. And his thought was that
I don't understand that reference about
you will
Central
in a second.
Pennsylvania.
His thought was that the refs were flagging Penn State because of Jerry Sandusky.
Well, that just makes sense.
Right. So I don't think that's happening.
Right.
This is a really bad call, though. This is a horrible call. So
All right. What else stood out to you?
Texas 33-7 over Iowa State. We have a sound actually. Someone called in. I just thought.
No, not that one.
That is not the sound.
No.
Leanne, play the sound. This is from a caller who wanted to give Darryl K. Roy a little love. I thought this was genuine. Go ahead.
I'm standing here in front of the statue of Darryl K. Royal. Lots of flowers, lots of wreaths. I don't have anything boastful or snarky to say. I just wanted to call in and remember a legend.
All right. So a very genuine message. I like how he mentioned that he had nothing boastful or snarky to say.
Right.
Which is good. Which immediately took him out of the running for the reverbs.
Yeah.
But we had to play this here. So you called this one. You said Texas was going to be all over Iowa State.
Yep.
Texas was in full-on FU mode in this one.
They were. Opened the game up. I think it was the fourth play with that weird wishbone double pass that went for about 55 yards. Texas on the ground, spreading the ball out. I really thought Jonathan Gray was going to have a huge game, but instead they went the three-headed monster and then sort of separated the carries evenly. Malcolm Brown, Jonathan Gray, and Joe Bergeron all had a very nice day. David Ash got back to where he thought he was going to develop into.
Just kicking Ash and taking names, baby.
Kicking Ash and taking names. I thought the even bigger story, because we've seen Texas's offense succeed this year. not against Oklahoma, but we've seen them have success in a balanced way this season. The big thing was the defense got to where they should have been and appeared to be on the track to getting to before a hiatus of sorts against Baylor and West Virginia and Oklahoma. Right. So, yes, very solid game defensively. Not even solid, very outstanding game from Texas against, granted, an Iowa State team that struggled on offense. But, yes, a very thorough ass-kicking by the Longhorns.
Yeah, I mean, the Iowa State defense has been okay in spots.
Right.
I mean, it's not Alabama. It's certainly not Notre Dame, but
And now you have to be a Hook'em Horns fan.
So I got to do this now. We got to talk to Will.
Yes.
Because Will's the Texas fan here.
Yes.
He's got to help me through this. I can't make the vertical stripe jokes about he's talking to me in the
Roll
ear.
damn horns in our ears.
I can't make the Mac Brown vertical stripe jokes anymore.
Yeah, a little trimmer.
I got to wait.
Oh, you're just holding off on
I got to
those
hold off. There's got to go on hiatus here.
until Texas blows the K-State game.
Right. No,
Give
until
me a score for that game right now, on the spot.
Texas is going to win 35-30.
Really?
Yeah.
21-17 K-State.
Okay. USC 38, another. Now, this is a team I hate, USC.
You're a hater.
38-17. We both called this one. Said that USC was a couple scores better than Arizona State.
Yeah, and probably even better than that if Matt Barkley decides to throw it to the teams wearing the same color he's wearing.
USC just beat Arizona State's head in after a little bit. Marquise Lee remains a legitimate Heisman candidate. 12 for 178 and a touchdown. Also had 48 rushing yards, just for good measure.
Why not?
He needs to be invited to New York.
Yeah,
for that discussion.
We'll have him here.
It's funny because we should have him here.
Yeah,
we should
we'll
have
get some
him here.
Katz's Deli.
Yeah,
why not?
That'd be good. I don't know what I was going to say.
Can I tell you what the difference was in this game for me?
Yeah.
They got rid of that Penn State stank. Silas Red out with an injury.
Yeah.
Curtis McNeil, though, seriously, that was the difference in USC last year. You saw, the Notre Dame game, Curtis McNeil was great. The Oregon game, and I don't think he got quite to 100 yards. But for whatever reason, as a featured back, and Arizona State has been okay against the run when they haven't been playing Oregon, Curtis McNeil goes well over 100 yards, really establishes that offense, and was the MVP offensively. Even as good as Marquise Lee has looked, Matt Barkley throws another 3 picks. One of them was a pick 6, but Curtis McNeil, MVP of the game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's funny that Silas Red would go to USC for more exposure.
Right.
Held out in this one for bumps and bruises, as I saw on Twitter. A sprained ankle, I know that came out, and you wish the kid well, but it's good he went there for more exposure. And also, USC might have the same record as Penn State by the time all is said and done.
They just might.
It's good he went there to win something. Okay. Michigan 38, Northwestern
but you're not bitter.
31 in overtime.
Yeah.
This is a weird game.
You see the end of this game?
Things got real weird in the fourth quarter.
Funky.
Michigan, no timeouts, gets the ball back with 18 seconds left. Excuse me. I like that.
Yeah.
Is that a dinosaur or just a?
It's a brontosaurus with a nasal passage issue.
Somehow, Roy Roundtree runs down the middle of the field. I don't know what you call this coverage, but there was only one man on Roy Roundtree.
Right.
Devin Gardner basically throws a duck.
He throws a Denard.
He throws
Denards it up there.
He Denards it up there. This is
Right.
good. Roy Roundtree does some acrobatics, comes down with it.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan ends up kicking the field goal. Game goes to OT. Michigan ends up winning.
Well, that's about right for Michigan's season. Escaping against Northwestern at home.
Yeah.
That's where Michigan football is in 2012. And Northwest, that's just a pissy thing to say about Northwestern.
Yeah.
Northwestern's a good team. Venrick Mark has a very nice game.
Sure.
Kane Coulter, a good game. But yeah, that play, it seemed like the ball was in the air. Like I felt like watching that play.
They needed the hang time clock.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
I think there's a ball in it. Do we have time to get like
Do you remember when they used to put the hang time clock up on like NFL broadcast? They don't do that anymore.
I like that.
It had no relevance to anyone.
No,
but
they had that in video games too, I want to say. Yeah.
The hang time. That's what they needed on
Big Ten football.
That's what they need. They need that on Denard passes or Devin Gardner passes. So.
Yeah.
All right. While we're on the topic of the Big Ten, I wanted to play this sound because we couldn't play all of the reverbs. We just had too many talking about A&M and Alabama. Andrew from Wisconsin called in to talk about Wisconsin's 62-14 thumping of Indiana. Let's have a listen.
Wisconsin football. Leaders division champs. Hooray.
Hooray.
Huzzah.
Hooray. That was a question mark at the end of that, not an exclamation point. Wisconsin's probably going to win the Leaders division.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
And this is a number I memorized that I might have mismemorized.
Yes.
How many pass attempts did Wisconsin have in 4 quarters?
In this game?
In this contest?
I do not know.
I'm going to give you an over-under of 10.5. I'm
going to say under.
7.
7?
I believe 7 pass
Wow.
attempts. They, Monty Ball, back to Monty, and James White both go well over 100 yards. I want to say over 500 yards total rushing.
That feels right.
It feels about right. So the dream, they're going to be sad about this one in Knicks and Bloomington.
Yeah.
The Rose Bowl dream is dead for the
By the way,
Hoos.
Chris Fowler finally made a mistake yesterday, and I caught him. Finally made it. He doesn't mess anything up because
Right.
the man's a total
Was
pro.
his mistake saying, what do you think, Lee?
No, that
was the
wasn't
mistake?
it, actually.
Okay.
That was the other mistake.
What do you think, Desmond?
He had Monte.
Oh, he went Monte.
He went Monte.
Come on, fouls. Do people call them fouls? I hope they don't.
They
yeah.
don't. Anyway. All right. Speaking of foul.
Yeah.
You like that. Okay. Missouri, 51. Tennessee, 48. Can someone please play me?
That was in 17 overtimes.
Right. Can someone please play me the message that Bizarro Tyler from Tennessee left us after watching this game on television? Dan, I don't know if you heard this yet, but let's have a listen.
Dan and Ty, this is Bizarro Tyler in Nashville. I'm watching the end of the Mizzou UT game, and the announcer, Dave Neal's call the Tigers' first touchdown in overtime was verbatim, James Franklin, so casual over the middle. There's nothing casual about that. Touchdown Mizzou. The SEC Network's Dave Neal is a verballer.
I think that's safe to say.
I think that's
We've been going with casual dress James Franklin for a while now.
Long time.
And that was all me. You had nothing to do with it. It was all me.
First of all, I'm admitting to this. There's no need for mean pointing.
We got to give the
This
people
is a
what they
visual
want.
medium.
People want conflict. That's what sells.
That's true.
Or gets views or whatever.
Right.
I don't know.
What else stood out to you? UCLA at all?
No.
That was a late game. UCLA goes up big behind a really good performance by the special teams.
Yeah.
And they were blocking every single kick. Marquise Wilson, by the way, he's gone.
Yeah, he's got that.
From the Palouse.
That didn't work out at all.
No, he alleges all sorts of charges.
What did they do? Because depending where you looked on Twitter,
right,
they either verbally abused him or beat him with a stick. What?
The actual statement that he made said physical, emotional, and verbal abuse. That was Marquise Wilson's statement.
Okay.
But to Washington State's credit, and it has nothing to do with me, I thought they were going to quit on Mike Leach and the coaching staff. And I thought even further with the whole thing, the Wilson thing, putting the statement out. He didn't put that statement out today.
Yeah.
He put it out a couple hours before kickoff. That wasn't an accident. I really thought they were gonna pack it in.
Yeah, they
and
fought. They
to their
fought.
credit, once Toole goes out, Halliday comes in. I want to say at the end of the first quarter, somewhere in there. I think they outscored UCLA 29-7 in the second half. There's no team that UCLA won't let back into a game on the road. That's how UCLA football works.
Yeah.
They get hit a little bit in the second half and they go away. Yeah. Washington State was an onside kick away from tying the game. They were down 8 with a minute and a half left. They had an onside opportunity. They don't get it, but UCLA still too raw to play 4 quarters.
So raw. Okay. We had someone call you out for your Fordham.
Yeah. I called them frauds, the Fordham frauds.
People right now are Googling Fordham.
Yeah.
What is Fordham? Let's have a listen here. You said that Fordham, you said that you called the Fordham frauds.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Fordham football. By the way.
Vince Lombardi
went
to Fordham.
Okay. Play the Fordham clip.
Dan, you called out the Fordham Rams on the solid verbal.
I did.
And you got the horns.
I did.
Go Rams. Hail Fordham.
Hail Fordham.
They're my local team.
36-27 from Hamilton, New York.
No, Colgate's Hamilton, New York.
Colgate's from Hamilton.
Fordham, I want to say, is in the Bronx.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're from here now. Okay,
Yeah.
we got correct in the air. Thank you.
Ding!
Fordham 36, Lafayette 27.
Yeah,
Your dad went to Lafayette.
My dad went to Lafayette. Proud Leopard legacy here.
Yeah.
It happens. But I nailed my Colgate pick.
You did.
What's up, Lehigh?
First loss of the year, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
You don't hold me to that. But Lehigh...
You don't just come
honestly-
into Goodman Stadium unless you've got a...
Is that what it's called?
Goodman
Stadium.
Yeah. You
And
don't just come into Goodman Stadium unless you've got a...
You were unimpressed with their hot dog condiment options.
I was.
Yeah.
I was.
No jalapenos.
No,
Yeah.
need to have it, so...
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if we have anything else to discuss
Let me
here.
look at the scores to,
Yes,
to make sure
by
we
all
didn't miss
means, go
anything. And I
through
mentioned
and-
that Niall Davis couldn't get anything going. Niall Davis didn't play, so he definitely didn't get anything going. Yeah, Rutgers hangs around with Army for 3 quarters before
Wow.
deciding to play a 4th quarter.
Okay,
but
that was
Big East driver's seat.
Yeah.
That sets up I want to think it's a Thursday night game against Louisville coming
Yeah.
up.
I believe I called at some point that Rutgers was losing to Pitt when they play Pitt.
All right.
Maybe they played them
Notre
already.
Dame. Yeah, there's nothing really too huge here that I think we missed. Texas Tech, Tommy Tuberville slapped a guy. Personally, I want to see some chaos from yesterday in GIF
Do we
form.
have a chaos?
I want
GIF? Can we
chaos
put one
that
together?
represents really
For those
everything.
people who are listening at home, we do have a GIF here. Again, if you want to see it, you're gonna have to come out to.
We're gonna do it right now.
Come out to YouTube to find it. But
look, okay, upper left-hand corner.
Yeah.
Chugging fireball. We got the
Whoa.
Syracuse band. You've got sad Bama fan. We've got crazy Johnny Manziel pumping
Crazy
everybody
Johnny
up.
Manziel, yeah.
I love that crap.
Johnny Manziel. I saw that someone said he's going to need an agent for his nether regions, which is entirely possible.
We got to call it something better than nether regions.
Well, I didn't.
Got a junk agent.
I panicked. I didn't know what to say here. We're on the air.
Agent for
but,
his junk.
Johnny Manziel, very popular, I would imagine, on the campus of Texas A&M right now.
Scooby Dooby Doo.
Yeah.
Your tire fire. Let's hear that.
Do we have the tire fire?
I want to say we do.
A number of
Eventually
tire
it's gonna
fires
get
here.
played. There was a tire fire day.
Can I go Iowa again, just because? I want to go Iowa. I want to go Auburn, just one last time.
Well, I got a tire fire.
There we go.
Let's see that tire fire graphic. It's just it's been
calming.
a little cold. It's nice warm by the fire.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm gonna go Iowa just because.
Just out of force of habit.
I want to. Yeah.
In the context of their season,
have we done Tennessee yet?
I'm gonna say. I feel like Tennessee it's time.
Right.
I feel like,
someone's thrown the dually stool.
That was a stool of a game.
In the fire.
That was a stool of a defensive effort. It was a stool sample right there.
They are awful.
Yeah, let's go Tennessee. That feels about right to me.
Okay. That was weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Dan, you got anything else?
I don't think I do.
Okay. We're going to be by a little later on this week to discuss more college football, give you some previews, maybe even do more of what we did last week with Bruce Feldman to
Yes, we are.
discuss the state of the college football union.
Preach!
Talk a little bit more about
Preach
what's
on, Brother
going on
Hildebrand.
in the world of college football. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, the plattest man in the whole town.
Damn straight.
Right now, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, thanks for tuning in. solidverbal@gmail.com is our email address. 206-338-1784 is the phone number. Also, hit us up on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks again for downloading, for listening, for playing along with us. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace!